Hello friends, good morning to all of you and welcome back to this class again. And I hope you remember we have been studying about the public facilities that are provided by the government, and it is a prime responsibility of the government to provide public facilities. Where the government needs help, it can call the private company to help them, but government has to check whether the private company is doing nicely or not, whether they are charging too much or not. So the money that government gets from the various taxes, that is used for doing this kind of developmental projects, developmental works, providing public facilities and so. Now today let us come to the specific topic, water supply in Chennai. So just take a particular example of Chennai town. The water that is supplied there, is it available to all? That is what we are going to see today. You can take page number 113, 113. So while there is no doubt that public facilities should be made available to all, in reality we see that there is a greater shortage of such facilities. In the rest of this chapter, we will read about the provision of water, which as we have seen is a public facility of great importance. So we say public facility like water supply is the responsibility of the government, but we see very sadly people who are living in the interior places, people who are living in the slums, they don't get that water supply. They don't have access to water supply. They have to walk miles and miles in order to get water. So we can say government has failed in its duty, responsibility in those places. So water supply in Chennai, as we saw at the beginning of this chapter, is marked by shortages. So we saw the four pictures in the beginning of this lesson. That in some places there is plenty of water, that is like government offices and so. But where people are staying, the poor people are staying, there the water facility is not available to all. It is available only sometimes or only little bit. They are not able to use sufficient water or available in plenty. Municipal supply meets only about half the needs of the people of the city on an average. So average we can say the municipal corporation is able to supply water only to half of the people living in the city, not all. About half the needs of the people in the city on an average, and there are areas which get water more regularly than others. So there are some areas like in the town, they get water very regularly, but in the interior places, in the slums and so, they receive water only once in a while. Then those areas that are close to the storage points get more water, whereas colonies further away receive less water. So the houses or areas that are near to the water tank, they are able to receive good water or more water. The more force may be there, so they can get more water faster. And as it goes far and far, the speed becomes less and less, and people who are at last, they receive very little water. So that kind of problems are there. The burden of shortfalls in water supply falls mostly on the poor. So who are the ones suffering very often due to lack of this insufficient water supply? These are poor people. They are the one abandoned. They are the one made to suffer and so on. The middle class, when faced with water shortages, are able to cope through a variety of private means such as digging bore wells, buying water from tankers, and using bottled water for drinking. So the middle class people or the medium rich people or the very rich people, what do? If there is a water shortage, they'll go and spend money and buy water from the private. They'll say, bring one tanker water. Or they will dig bore well. So they have money, so they can dig bore well and pump up water on their own. But the poor people, they cannot afford all these things. Therefore, they continue to suffer. Then apart from the availability of water, access to safe drinking water is also available to some, and this depends on what one can afford. So we said it is not enough to provide water, but we have to make sure that the water is clean. It should be hygienic. People, they don't drink clean water, they will fall sick, and that will be more dangerous. People will have to spend more money for buying medicine and so on. So it is make sure, government's duty to make sure that clean water is provided. Then once again, the wealthy have more choice thanks to the booming market in bottled water and water purifiers. So if you go to the market, we can see a lot of bottled water is there. Everybody is buying bottled water. So that is has become a big business. People who are running that bottled water business, they are getting a lot of money. And also there is water purifiers. A lot of companies are producing water purifying system. So people will buy that one and purify the water so that they can get safe drinking water. So those people are getting a lot of profit. Then people who can afford it have safe drinking water, whereas the poor are again left out. In reality, therefore, it seems that it is only people with money who have the right to water, a far cry from the goal of universal access to sufficient and safe water. So when it is the duty of the government to provide clean and safe water for the people, it has come to a situation that people who have got money, they can have plenty of water. People who have money, they can buy safe water. They can buy bottled water, or they can buy purified water, and so on. So it is those people who are free, they have a lot of people who are rich, they have a lot of opportunity to have access to good and clean water. But people who are poor, they are continue to suffer, they are struggling. We can see a picture of a woman, how she is trying to search for water. So in rural areas, water is needed both for human use as well as for cattle. So farmers who have got plenty of cattle, they have to provide water for them to drink also. And the sources of water are wells, hand pumps, ponds, and sometimes overhead tanks. So, how do the people in the rural area get water? There is some places there is bore wells are there, some places there is hand pumps are there, some places there are ponds and so on. Sometimes there is overhead tank will be kept up and will be pumping water on top and so on. Then much of these are privately owned. Compared to the urban areas, there is an even greater shortage of public water supply in rural areas. So most of these sources are by private people. So if you want to take water from them, then you have to pay money. But the poor people are not able to pay, not afford to pay, cannot pay. Therefore, they are struggling. They are going. You can see here a woman going and searching for water source from a well, from a small pond, and so on. So that is the situation going on in our country. There are a lot of areas where water is not available. Then taking water from farmers. The shortage of water has opened up opportunities for private companies in a big way. Many private companies are providing water to cities by buying it from places around the city. In Chennai, water is taken from nearby towns like Mamadpur, Pulur, Kumchagiri, and from villages to the north of the city using a fleet of over 13,000 water tankers. So in Chennai city, 13,000 water tankers are supplying water. It is all by private. So they go and buy water from the nearby village and then bring to the town and supply. So they make profit in that. And every month the water dealers pay farmers an advance for the rights to exploit water sources on their land. So these companies who are running water tankers, they'll go and pay some advance money to the farmers, say next month I will take water from your farm. So farmer will take that money and say okay, you can take water. So that way these people will come and carry away all the water from there. And this is water taken away not just from agriculture but also from the drinking water supplies of the villages. groundwater levels have dropped drastically in all these towns and villages as a result. So sometimes they take out water from the well, which is meant for agriculture, which is meant for drinking water supply in the villages and so. So for the town people, these tankers, water tankers go and carry all this water, and therefore the water is going down. The water level in the village is going down, and those people will continue to suffer. So they pay some money and take away their water and make them to suffer. Since they are poor, they will agree to that, and they don't think about the consequences. At the end, they are the ones who are suffering. So it is for the rich people who are living in the town, it is for their sake that the poor people living in the villages, living in the outskirts of the city, they are suffering. Therefore, the government has to take care of it. Government has to make sure that these companies, these private companies who are supplying water, they are not exploiting the poor, they are not exploiting the water sources, and everything is going on in a smooth way, in a nice way. Otherwise, in the future, we will have a lot of water scarcity and a lot of trouble will be there. Now, let us see if there is any other way in search of some alternatives. So, is there any other alternative plan? Alternative plans are there or not? Let's see. So the situation in Chennai is not unique. A similar scenario of shortages and acute crisis during the summer months is common to other cities of India. So we just saw the example how people are suffering in Chennai, but the same thing is also visible in other cities also, especially in this summer season. The shortage in municipal water is increasingly being filled by an expansion of private companies who are selling water for profit. Also common are the great inequalities in water use. So people are trying to supply water, that is by private companies, and they are trying to make a lot of profit. And also common are the great inequalities. There is a lot of inequalities are there in the water use. As we saw in the Chennai example, the rich people, they can go and buy how many tankers of water they need, even for pouring water on the grass they have. But other people, they don't have even water for drinking. So a lot of inequalities are there. All are not treated equally. And the water supply per person in an urban area in India should be about 135 liters per day. So in the towns, people, they use 135 liters per person. Those who are living in the town, they need 135 liters of water per day use. That means around 7 buckets of water he needs. Then a standard set by the Urban Water Commission. So that is the calculation by the government water commission. Then whereas people in slums to make do with less than 20 liters a day per person. So but people who are living in the village, then they are given only 20 liters of water. See what a difference. A person who is living in the town, he is able to use 135 liters of water. But a person living in the village, he is able to use only, or he is allowed, or it is available for him only just 20 liters. So that's why we said the use of water is not equal. There is a lot of inequality, lot of difference is there. So the town people are able to use 7 buckets, and in the village people are able to manage one day with 1 bucket. And people living in luxury hotels may consume as much as 1,600 liters of water per day. And people who are living in the luxury hotels with all kinds of comfort, 5-star hotels and so, they use even much more water. They need 1,600 liters. 1,600 liters of water one day. We don't know what they do with so much of water. That is how many buckets? 80 buckets of water per day. So much of misuse of water by the rich people 5-star hotels, 7-star hotels, and so while the people living in the village, they are able to get only one bucket of water. Here they are able to use 80 buckets of water. See the difference, and so much of inequality, is there. So a shortage of municipal water is often taken as a sign of failure of the government. So if the municipal corporation or the local government, the panchayat and so on, if they are not able to supply water, then that is a sign as the failure of the government. We say this government is not good, this government is not doing well. Some people argue that since the government is unable to supply the amount of water that is needed and many of the municipal water departments are running at a loss, we should allow private companies to take over the task of water supply. So according to them, private companies can perform better. So most of the places we see the government is failing, the officers are not responsible, they only look after the rich people, the influential people, they don't care all the people are getting enough water or not. The government is failing. Therefore, many are suggesting instead of completely depending on government, the government should invite the private company to supply water to the people. So private companies will be able to supply water much better way. Just like in Delhi, electricity is supplied by two companies, private companies, and the government is checking whether they are doing nicely or not. The same way we can say the government can invite the private companies to come and supply water to the people, and government can check whether they are doing well or not. That will be a better option. We can say that is another alternative. Instead of completely controlled by the government, since the government is a failure, let the government ask others to come and help them. That will be a good solution. That will be a better way of solving this water problem. Then, public water supply in Porto Alegre. So Porto Alegre is a city in Brazil. Let's see how the things are taking place in Brazil. Though there are many poor people in the city, what is remarkable is that it has a far lower number of infant deaths as compared to most other cities of the world. So, this city, there are many poor people are there, and what is remarkable is that it has a far lower number of infant deaths. So, this city in Brazil is a very poor city, so a lot of poor people are there, but we find a lot of the number of children dying are very less compared to other cities. There are other cities in Brazil where so many children are dying, but in this city called Porto Alegre, very few people are dying, few children are dying. And the city's water department has achieved universal access to safe water, and this is the main reason behind the lower number of infant deaths. So, the reason that they say why very few people are dying there, few children are dying there, it is because the water that they use is very clean and very pure. So the children are able to drink clean water, therefore they don't get sick and they don't die. But in many other cities in the world, the children or the people don't have access to clean drinking water, therefore the children drink that dirty water and they get sick and they die. But in Brazil, in this town, Porto Alegre, that is not the case. They have safe drinking water, therefore they are safe, children are safe from dying. Then, the average price of water is kept low, and the poor are charged half the basic rate. Whatever profit the department makes is used to improve the water supply. And the working of the water department is transparent, and people can have a direct say in deciding which projects the department should take up. And through the process of public meetings, people hear what the managers have to say and also vote on their priorities. So how this city is managing this water supply is very nice, very clean and very transparent. First of all, the government do not charge very high. They charge very minimum so that the poor people can afford easily. Then what do? And the people are charged half of the basic rate. So water charge is, if it is 10 rupees per liter, then government takes only 5 rupees from the people. The 5 rupees government puts in. So that way the government is helping the poor people. Then what do? And the system is very transparent, so the profit that they make, they are using it again in that area. It is not taken by officer to his home for his personal use. That profit that they make is used again for improving the water system of the people. So it is transparent, there is no corruption, everything is transparent, and people can see what the government is doing, how the money is spent, for what purpose they are spending the money. All this can be seen by the people, and therefore there is no corruption, there is no injustice, and so and the people can come and suggest to the officer, sir, this is not okay, that is not okay, if you do this way it is nice, and so the officer will listen nicely and try to help the people. If in India, if an ordinary person go and tell officer, sir, that is not correct, do this way, that way, the officer will shout at him and beat him and send him away. That is the situation in India. But in Brazil, that is not the way. So the people have got a full confidence in the government. They can suggest things to the government, and government will listen nicely, and they will try to follow what the people are saying, try to help the people, try to make the people happy, and so that's why the Brazil has become a very well developed city where the people are healthy, even the children are not dying, and so comparing to other cities, and so that is an example for us to follow. So if like Brazil we are also able to follow that way, then we can say that we are able to improve our situation as well. So let us see what are the other options. Option 1 is, throughout the world water supply is the function of the government. There are very few instances of private water supply. So in most of the places, or most of the places in the world, it is government is taking up this responsibility of supplying drinking water to the people. In very few places, government is inviting the private party, private company to provide water. So there are areas in this world where public water supply has achieved universal access. So there are many examples are there in the world where the water supply has achieved success. That is what we saw just now, the example of Brazil, how the Brazil people have achieved success in supplying water, and the people have benefited from it, and so on. So that is an example how the people have benefited from this. So there are many other options are there, and we will see them in the next class, and we shall wind up today, and we will see the next class, and we shall complete the chapter in the next class, and we will see what more options are there, what more the government can do in order to improve this water system, water supply system, and help the people to have good health, and so on. So we'll meet you again in the next class. Until then, have a nice day. Bye.